I bet you were taught a lie in school. You know that triangle that your English teacher used to have up on the wall? It was called probably plot pyramid or something like that. It had exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution. It's plastered on classroom walls across the country, probably. I don't know. I've only been to like one classroom in one state. That's mine. This is usually named the plot pyramid or the story mountain or the plot diagram or the plot mountain, something along those lines. They call it all different things. But what no one told you is this. That specific model is actually called Freytag's model, and it can't possibly describe every type of story. And that's because of one big problem. We call that falling action. When I first started teaching junior high English, I relied heavily on the plot pyramid to help my students understand how stories work. I hadn't heard it called Freytag's model yet, but I understood the concept. Every story has a beginning, a build-up of tension, a turning point, and an ending. But it was the falling action that always threw me. Somebody explained it to me as like the tying up of loose ends, which, okay, that's fine, but it doesn't make really any kind of sense. So it's kind of like an extended epilogue, but then why does it take up almost half of the story? It didn't make sense to me until I discovered the truth. Actually, I went and looked it up myself. What I found is that this model is not designed to describe every story. It was created in order to describe one specific type of story, and that's a tragedy. And once you understand that, the meaning of falling action suddenly makes a lot of sense. And no, it's not about the tying up of loose ends. It's about watching someone fall in real time. In this video, we're going to look at how tragedy really works. We'll break down why the heart of a tragic story is always built around a lie, and we're going to use Sunrise on the Reaping to explore the idea and look at it through the lens of Freytag's model, how it was intended to be used. So if you haven't read that book, I'm going to spoil the whole thing. We'll look at how Hamish Abernathy believed he could beat the games, why that lie destroyed him, what we as writers can learn from it. And stay tuned to the end, because I'm going to give you a writing challenge that will help you build your own tragedy, one that hits as hard as Macbeth or Anakin Skywalker or The Hunger Games. So let's get into it. What is a tragedy? I'm going to start by answering this very basic question. A tragedy isn't just a sad story. It's a story where the hero loses. But this isn't some like random twist ending. The hero doesn't die suddenly in the final battle for no reason. That might happen in real life, but in fiction, everything needs to be earned. A tragic ending has to be set up, and that setup always centers around one key thing in a tragedy, and that is a lie. Aristotle is his name. Aristotle called this hamartia, or a fatal flaw that often, but not always, is a misjudgment that leads to the protagonist's downfall. It's something false that the protagonist builds their choices around. It might be a lie that they tell themselves, or one that the villain plants in their mind. Either way, it's believable enough that it guides their actions, and wrong enough to destroy them. The audience often sees this lie for what it is. We recognize the flaw. We see the danger. We can sense the inevitable crash that's coming. The character can't. They're too stupid. Not until it's far too late. That's what makes the tragedy so powerful. It doesn't pull the rug out from under us. It lets us watch a fall in slow motion. And because audiences have been trained to believe that a hero will always win, when they don't, it hits even harder. Like all great stories, a tragedy also carries a theme or a deeper message that the author wants us to take away. And often that theme is revealed in the moment that the lie unravels. Before we break down the tragedy of Sunrise on the Reaping, let's look at a few classic and modern examples to see how this plays out. Example of tragedies built on a lie. Let's look at two powerful tragedies, one modern and one classic, where the protagonist's downfall is driven by a lie they believe. Our modern example would be Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. I've always wanted to talk about this story in the context of it being an actual tragic downfall of a character. In Revenge of the Sith, Anakin Skywalker is haunted by visions of Padme dying in childbirth. Padme is his wife, by the way. He turns to the Jedi for reassurance, but they don't give him any. They're really bad at that, actually. That's when Chancellor Palpatine, secretly Dark Sidious, there's a plot twist none of us saw coming, feeds him a devastating lie. If you join the dark side, you can save your wife from death. Anakin desperately wants to control the future, and so he believes him, and in trying to prevent Padme's death, he causes it. His obsession with control is his downfall, sacrifices his morals, his order, and his identity, only to destroy the very thing he wanted to protect. This is a textbook example of a tragedy. A false belief, a chain of terrible choices, and a devastating fall. Okay, so now for our classic example. This one comes from Shakespeare. Who else would it come from? In Macbeth, the titular character is given a prophecy by 3 witches. Who trusts witches? He is destined to become a king of Scotland. But instead of waiting for his fate to unfold, Macbeth believes this prophecy means that he should take the crown by force. And he does. He thinks achieving power will bring him purpose, but instead it kills him. Driven by ambition and fear, Macbeth murders his way to the throne, but ultimately he loses his honor, his wife, and by the end he's a shell of a man he once was. And then he's murdered and his head is cut off and presented to the new king of Scotland, whose name I don't really remember. I think it's Macduff, maybe? Does that sound right? But that's what you get for trusting witches. Come on. I don't know what you're thinking, Macbeth. These stories work because the lie is clear. The audience can see it. We know what's coming. But watching a character spiral toward destruction, unable or unwilling to stop it, is what makes a tragedy so compelling. Now, let's apply this lens to Sunrise on the Reaping and how Hamish Abernathy's lie nearly destroys him. The heart of the tragedy, the lie. Tragedy is always personal to a character. Their downfall isn't just due to bad luck, it's because they have the wrong idea or they believe the wrong person or worldview. Which brings us to Hamish Abernathy. Sunrise on the Reaping, Freytag's model breakdown. I'm going to give you a quick overview, as quick as I can do it, of Sunrise on the Reaping with an emphasis on the lie that Hamish keeps telling himself until it leads to his ultimate downfall. Now, I'm not going to go over every single plot point of this novel. However, if you haven't read it, I'm going to spoil the hell out of it, so just know that going forward. Let's start with the lie Hamish believes. I can beat the Capitol at their own game. Haha, no you can't. From the moment he's chosen at the Reaping, Hamish accepts that he'll probably die, but he's determined to make that death count. He believes that if he's clever and strategic, he can outsmart the Capitol, break the arena, and in doing so, turn himself into a symbol of district rebellion. But the Capitol doesn't play fair. On my foot. We see this early on when they rig the Reaping. I forgot what it's called for a second. Hamish's name isn't even drawn. He's forced into the games to cover up the murder of the original District 12 tribute, and the Capitol manipulates the footage using a delay in the broadcast and rewriting the narrative in real time. This is Hamish's first real lesson. The Capitol always controls the story. The games aren't just physical, they're rigged at every level, and the Capitol always comes out ahead. The house always wins. From this moment, the reader understands, if you're paying attention, that you can't beat the Capitol at their own game. And this is the lesson that Hamish has yet to learn. So let's break down the beats of Sunrise and the Reaping using Freytag's model of tragedy. Number 1, exposition. Hamish Abernathy is a 16-year-old growing up in poverty and oppression in District 12. It's his birthday, the same day as the second quarter quell, a twisted anniversary that turns the Hunger Games into an even crueler spectacle. He's in love with Lenore, his covey girlfriend. Hamish doesn't have power, but he has a family and a girl he loves. And that's something that the Capitol can't take away from him, right? Wrong. At least that's what he believes. Number 2, inciting incident. The Reaping is disrupted when a tribute's escape attempt ends in his televised murder, forcing the Capitol to orchestrate a cover-up during the ensuing chaos. Hamish defends his girlfriend Lenore from a peacekeeper and is subsequently forced into the games as District 12's tribute, despite his name not being drawn. He joins 3 other District 12 tributes, Luella McCoy, Maisley Donner, and Wyatt Callow, an unusually large group due to the Quarter Quell rules. Hamish feels suspicion of the wealthy and bullying Maisley, but that relationship will evolve to highlight Hamish's flawed belief in the lie that he can beat the Capitol. Number 3, rising action. During the chaotic opening of the ceremony, District 12's carriage crashes, killing the youngest tribute, Luella McCoy. After Luella's death, Hamish carries her body toward the president's box and spits into the crowd. It's a moment of defiance, and it gets attention. Sponsors notice, but so does the Capitol. And by Capitol, I mean a certain president. Hamish partners with another tribute, Ampert, and together with Maisley, they build an alliance and promise to protect the non-career tributes. However, Ampert and his father, Wires, reveal to Hamish a secret plan to destroy the arena by blowing up the main water tank. Now, the thing we should all note about this plan is that Wires and Hamish are falling into a self-made trap. This plan is flawed, with pride. They think they can make a stand, and they're willing to sacrifice Ampert to do so. It's a cruel decision. You would expect more from a character like President Snow. Speaking of President Snow, Hamish is summoned to meet with him, and Snow delivers a veiled threat. He reminds Hamish of the Capitol's reach and gives Hamish a choice in the games: die quickly or suffer an agonizing and public death. Snow makes veiled threats towards Hamish's family as well as Lenore. These are threats that Hamish seemingly ignores, a decision that will come back to haunt him. At the time, he believes only his life is at risk, and this he understands. Hamish doesn't expect to win, but he wants to make his death mean something, to embarrass the capital and to go out on his own terms. This is an evolution of the lie, that you can lose the way that you choose, that if you're clever enough, your death can still matter, that you can beat the capital at their own game. Number 4, climax. In the arena, Hamish abandons his alliance and partners with Ampert. He's ashamed of this act, but he believes it's necessary. And together, he and Ampert smuggle explosives in and use them to damage the game's central water tank. But the sabotage barely slows anything down. Ampert is torn apart by Mutts in retaliation, punishment not just for him, but for his father, who believed in the same misguided lie that Hamish does. Hamish is ambushed by careers, but is unexpectedly saved by Maisie. Maisie, unlike Hamish, protected the other tributes. She stays true to her alliance and herself. Hamish and Maisie partner, agreeing to create posters or acts of defiance against the capital, but Hamish secretly clings to the idea that he can destroy the arena. They burn their way through a hedge maze with a blowtorch and discover a power plant at the bottom of a cliff, a vulnerable artery of the arena. Protected by a force field, Hamish starts planning on how to destroy it. But Maisie's priority is different. She wants to find Welly, a younger tribute who's still alive somewhere in the arena. She doesn't want to win. She wants to protect the weak. That's her rebellion. Not playing the Capitol's game, but refusing to become what they want her to be, a killer. Hamish goes along with her, but deep down, he's still clinging to something else. Still trying to find a pressure point that will make it all matter. He's chasing symbolism and a grand gesture. Really, it's all just a lie. Then something unexpected happens. They spot a group of game makers near a manhole, clearly doing field repairs from Hamish's earlier stunt. It's not a staged event. The Capitol workers don't expect tributes to be here, and the final 2 careers arrive, and for a single moment, all the tributes are confronted by their true enemy. And for once, that enemy is actually vulnerable. Then Maisie and one of the careers act. They kill the game makers. And this is an act that cracks the illusion that the Capitol has built. The people running the games aren't untouchable. And when the districts unite, their true strength is revealed. But what about Hamish? What does he do? Well, he freezes. Because even now, he's fixated on the power plant. He's convinced that he can hit the Capitol where it hurts, in some sort of grand gesture, if he just gets it right. But he's missing what's right in front of him. A real blow and a real act of defiance. He hesitates. Because deep down, he still believes the lie. Maisie sees this and she judges him for it, rightly so. And in the chaos, a smoke bomb scatters Hamish, Maisie, and the careers. In retribution for the game maker's murder, Mutts attack and kill Maisie. Hamish holds her as she dies. Then he goes to find Welly, but leaves her to find food, giving the last tribute a chance to kill her. Hamish discovers the career with Welly's body. He fights the last career, Silka, at the cliff's edge, and both are injured. Hamish tricks Silka into throwing her weapon at the force field. It rebounds and kills her, and he is declared the winner. But the Capitol is the true victor here. Hamish is not a rebel. They turned him into a killer. They made him play the game. Still clinging to the idea of rebellion, Hamish uses the last of his strength to throw a bomb at the power plant. The explosion causes a blackout and momentary panic in the Capitol, but nothing changes. The games are over and the Capitol has won. Number 5. Falling action is where we see the protagonists suffer the consequences of their misguided belief. After the games, Hamish is held prisoner in the Capitol, kept in a luxurious apartment, but treated like a trophy. At parties, he's paraded around in a gilded cage, a cruel joke and a reminder that even the victors are still prisoners. When he's finally allowed to return home, he finds his home in flames. His mother and brother are dead. Hamish is devastated, but at least he still has Lenore, right? He reunites with Lenore and she finds the gumdrops he bought for her before the game started, the ones that he asked his brother to deliver. Hamish feeds one to her, only to discover too late that they're a different color than the ones he bought. They're blood red, and they're poisoned. The Capitol switched the gumdrops, they turned a gift of love into a weapon, and they made Hamish Lenore's unwitting executioner. Just like in the arena, they forced Hamish to kill, but this time, he's killed the person who matters most to him. This is when Hamish finally understands he never had a chance. His cleverness, his plans, his sacrifices, they were never enough. The Capitol was always in control. Number 6, resolution. Hamish isolates himself, drinks, builds walls no one can scale. The clever, sarcastic boy who thought he could beat the system becomes the jaded man we meet in the Hunger Games. When he finally begins to open up to Katniss and Peeta, it's not strategy he shares, it's cynicism and a bitter wisdom. You don't win the games, you just survive them. And even then, you keep losing. Because even though Hamish escaped the arena, he never left the games. Tragedy versus hope, Hamish versus Maisie. Okay, before we finish up, let's talk a little bit about Hamish's greatest sin, which was abandoning his alliances at the start of the games. Before the arena, Hamish, Ampert, and Maisie Maisley form a pact with several of the weaker tributes from the outlying districts. Many of the smallest, youngest tributes look up to Hamish, cling to him even, and he calls them his doves. He promises to protect them, but that's a lie. As soon as the games begin, Hamish runs, leaving them behind to die at the cornucopia. While he pursues his mission with Amber, every one of his doves is slaughtered. It's a betrayal that haunts him, and it's foreshadowing, because the person Hamish loves the most, his girlfriend Lenore, her last name happens to be Dove. Maisley, on the other hand, has no secret agenda. Like Hamish, she doesn't expect to survive, but she stays loyal to the Alliance. She tries to protect the others as best she can, but when the capital unleashes a manufactured volcano, it wipes out most of the remaining tributes. When Maisley finds their bodies, she doesn't give up. She sets off to find Hamish and a surviving younger tribute named Welly. While Hamish is chasing the lie that he can martyr himself in some grand gesture and embarrass the capital, Maisley is doing something actually radical. She's refusing to play the capital's game. She's protecting the weak, and she's proving that the districts have power when they stand together. And when Maisley gets her chance to strike back, she doesn't hesitate. She kills the game makers, and she takes her stand. In the end, it's Maisley, not Hamish, who sends the real message with her death. You can kill me, but you didn't change who I was, and you didn't beat me. And for once, in this moment, the capital doesn't win. The lesson from tragedy to revolution. Maisley's message is resurrected through Katniss and Peeta, who teach us the opposite of Hamish's lie. You don't beat the capital by being clever. You beat them by valuing people and connecting with each other. That's what makes Sunrise and the Reaping a tragedy. Not just the death and pain, but the lie that Hamish believed and the cost of learning the truth too late. Okay, I said I was going to give you a writing challenge, and here it is. Write the opening of a tragedy. Start with a character who believes in a lie, not a villain, but someone who wants something good and believes they can get it through the wrong means. What do they want more than anything? What false belief do they hold about the world or themselves? How will that lie shape their choices? And what will they lose before they finally realize the truth? Well, let's see what you come up with. Also, I want to know, do you agree with me? Is Hamish a true rebel, or is he just a misguided doofus who got everybody killed? Let me know in the comments. And if you stayed till the end, be sure to subscribe for more videos like this and hit the like button. That helps me out. I also have a weekly newsletter where I round up 5 writing articles, 3 writing tools, and 1 writing challenge. I send that out weekly. And I'm going to leave a link in the description for you to sign up. That's all I have for now. Until next time, keep writing.